I killed my two best friends and was sentenced to death. My name YNW Melly, and this is my story. Picture this, a night filled with bad choices and tragic consequences. Me and my two friends riding in a Jeep Trackhawk caught up in a moment of madness. We thought we were invincible, living life on the edge. But that night took a dark turn. Shots rang out in the back seat and fear gripped our hearts. The bullets found their mark, and my friends were gone. In the blink of an eye, everything changed. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself facing the unimaginable. The law accused me of the unthinkable. They said I was responsible for the deaths of my own friends. I couldn't believe it. I was lost in a nightmare, desperately trying to wake up. The trial was like a whirlwind filled with emotions and pain. The evidence against me seemed overwhelming, 66 whole pages, and my heart sank with every passing day. I knew deep down that my life would never be the same. Then came the verdict, a sentence that shattered my world, the death penalty. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. The weight of the guilt, the sorrow, and the consequences were overwhelming. But in this darkness, I find a glimmer of hope. I know I must face the consequences of my actions and seek forgiveness. I'm still fighting, not just for myself, but for the memory of my friends and for a chance to make things right. So as I sit here contemplating the choices that led me to this point, I can't help but feel the weight of regret. I am YNW Melly, and this is the painful story of my mistakes, my losses, and my battle for redemption.
First of all, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves now. YNW Melly has not yet been sentenced. He has not yet received the death penalty. However, it's also worth mentioning as well that his trial is set to start on the 12th of June, which is actually today. Alright, so 24-year-old YNW Melly, real name Jamal Maurice Demons. And no, I'm not making this up and I'm not being sarcastic either. It's actually spelled Demons plural with an S at the end. Maybe that side is pronounced as Damon, but from what I saw, dude, I read it as Demons. It says Demons, period. So he was arrested on the 13th of Feb 2019 and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder. So the only reason YNW Melly could potentially face a death penalty is because of the recent change in law, which on its own is another controversial topic. So this comes with news that in April, Florida governor and also Republican presidential candidate Ron DeSantis signed a new statute into law that allows juries to recommend a death sentence on an 8-4 vote as opposed to your normal unanimous decision. Basically, this change in law was inspired by school shooter Nicholas Cruz, who shot up about 17 people at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in 2018. So apparently that oak dodged a bullet because he was able to dodge the death penalty off a split jury vote in October of 2022. So in the words of Ron DeSantis, proper justice will be served in the state of Florida. This after he signed the new statute into law. And I wouldn't be surprised if that dog released a song about it. I mean, hence the 66 pages of evidence apparently that is overwhelming that has kept him in prison or in custody for the past 4 years. So the 2 men that were killed were Anthony Williams, who at the time was 21 years of age, aka YNW Sack Chaser, and the second being Christopher Thomas Jr., who at the time was 19 years of age, otherwise known as YNW Juke, which is strange, dude. Why would you call yourself Juke? That's like juvenile, right? He was clearly a troublemaker. Though it is also worth mentioning as well that this all occurred at the height of YNW Melly's career. So for those of us who actually don't know who YNW Melly is, YNW Melly was a very famous and popular US rapper. He actually came into light and popularity for a song that he released in 2018 titled Murder on My Mind, which actually blew into a whole other level of popularity after the actual incident. So the very same song, Murder on My Mind, peaked at number 14 in the Billboard Hot 100 in the US and peaked at number 20 in the UK singles chart. In all honesty, I don't know how these kinds of songs gain such a high level of popularity, especially when you listen to the actual lyrics in the song itself. It is bloody, my friend. Little kids are exposed to these lyrics, dude, so I don't know how they actually make it on the way to the Billboard Hot 100 or the UK singles chart. YNW Melly has also made some of the most iconic collaborations as well. I know he's collaborated with Kanye West on a song titled Mixed Personalities. In 2019, his debut album Melly vs. Balvin actually peaked at number 8 on the Billboard 200. So this was literally at the height of his career, dude, when all of this occurred, which is nothing short of tragic. He told the cops that there was a drive-by shooting and that's how his friends were killed. But apparently the cops couldn't find any form of evidence that suggests that there was some sort of drive-by. So YNW Melly and also YNW Portland were then dubbed as the main suspects. This came in after the autopsy report suggested that both deceased individuals were shot at close range. So according to the cops, this entire thing was just staged. Demon's track record is another hindrance in proving his innocence. Records show that he was also arrested in 2015 for shooting at a group of students at Vero Beach High School. He was then convicted of aggravated battery, of discharging a firearm in public, and also 2 counts of aggravated assault, to which he spent about several months in prison. I'm trying to figure out how was he able to pull that off for 3 charges, dude, that are extremely serious. But yeah, his violent history just doesn't help him at all. Makes this entire situation far worse than what it already is.
If I didn't know this was a true crime case, I would think it was a disturbing horror film. On the morning of the 7th of October 2022, a barefoot woman was running around Excelsior Springs, Missouri, bashing on people's doors. Witnesses describe her looking like she came straight from a horror film and she was calling for help. She'd been beaten, held captive and SA'd for weeks. The woman was a shocking sight. She was covered in injuries and was wearing a bin bag. Disturbingly, she was gasping for breath as she had a very tight metal collar locked round her neck. It was a nurse who opened the door to her and let her come in. The nurse started to call police, and at this point the woman panicked. She warned her that the captor would kill her and claimed that he had killed her 2 friends. When police got there, the woman explained that a man called Timothy had captured her the month prior. He'd been holding her hostage this whole time. She said he'd been keeping her locked in the basement and had been SAing her. Disturbingly, she told police that he actually had a young son who lived at the house with him. When Timothy had taken his young son to school the one day, she used it as her opportunity to escape. Police made their way to the home of 39-year-old Timothy Haslett Jr. and found the property did in fact have a basement like the woman described. Timothy was arrested and is facing 9 charges including first-degree kidnapping. He's being held on a $3 million bond and faces 5 life sentences. Before his arrest, police were actually called to his address 3 times. Twice they were asked to do welfare checks, and this was from an employer and also family members. Police have searched his home with cadaver dogs and they haven't yet released what they know.
I killed a lot of children and scared the whole of Japan at the age of 14. I am Sito Sakakibara. I was an overly intelligent schoolboy. I made people believe I was an angel. But in reality, I was obsessed with violence. I was too fond of horror movies and manga. One day, I took action. I killed 2 children, an 11-year-old boy and a 10-year-old girl. I enjoyed it too much. I also hurt 3 other kids. I did crazy things to them. And you know what, I left letters to taunt the police. I used an alias, Azuma, to send them messages and scary drawings. The investigators were overwhelmed. I was laughing too hard at the fact that they were looking for me. The media kept talking about my crimes and parents were terrified for their children. They were right to worry about me, but unfortunately, the cops were able to catch me through DNA and fingerprinting. They were hallucinating, and yes, the evil genius at 14. I want you to know that now I'm free. I could come to your house to say a little hello.
Was the last part really necessary though? Young man, do not come to my house. I will not open the door for you. So he's about 40 years old now. So even if he came to your house, you wouldn't be able to recognize him. So good luck with that. So if you live in Japan, I feel bad for you. I don't live in Japan, thank goodness. You could have been a protege for so many other things and you decided to become a criminal protege. First of all, a serial killer. This is actually the letter that he sent the cops at the time when the cops were still out searching for this unidentified serial killer. This is already evidence enough to actually suggest that he was literally just doing all of this for the thrill of it. It probably fulfilled some sort of hole left out by an existentialist dilemma. by killing, tormenting, and also torturing people. Apparently up until the age of 12, he was actually well versed in animal cruelty. So he would very often torture and kill animals. Characteristics of a serial killer. Most of them, before they actually moved on to killing live human beings, they would very often kill animals or torture animals, and they would enjoy that, which is nothing short of barbaric. So the child prodigy's reign of terror lasted about 4 to 5 months, in the months Feb up until June of 1997, up until such time that he was apprehended by the police. So when this kid mentions the fact that he injured about 3 people and then he killed about 2, it's worth mentioning, right, that he didn't just injure these people, dude. They survived. He was trying to kill them. It wasn't just a normal injury. He literally inflicted life-threatening physical harm to those 3 individuals, which were girls that he was trying to kill. So he should have actually been charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder and also 3 counts of attempted murder. That should have been the charge. So this kid literally got off very easy. What's even more bothersome is the fact that he was released after 6.5 years, which is just ridiculous. By the time he was 21, he was literally out of prison, walking the streets of Japan scorch-free. So yeah, if you guys find yourself toe-to-toe with the older version of Azuma, I would suggest that you run.
Ejecting. 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 Eject.